present on stage, Joe and Ben always used to say to us, this is a sport about stories. It's a sport about what's inside, what's beneath those layers, far beneath the facade, the things that we see, and the skin that we oil down, and the muscles that we train. Somewhere deep within everybody is a story. And so to me, whether it's Arnold Schwarzenegger or Lou Ferrigno, whomever it is, you kind of focus on that, right? Because at the end of the day, that's really what makes this industry compelling, because there are really interesting stories within everyone. I'm sure if I had a chance to interview all of you guys, I could probably peel away the layers and I could uncover something that would force a tear or make you appreciate why you started this journey. And to get back to your question, you start talking about Arnold. I'll never forget the first time I was hosting a webcast for Bodybuilding.com. It was Arnold was ushered into this backstage area. I think he was just starting his term as governor. And he walks over, and it's pretty overwhelming, right? Because it's Arnold, and he walks over, and amazing. Somehow it's funny because we just did this. Dave Palumbo just did this interview, and I told a similar story. He walks over, and he gets thrusted right in front of you, and when you do an interview on anything with camera or video, there's very little space separating you from the person you're talking to, right? It's almost unnatural. So you're standing here, and Arnold's 4 inches away, and you're trying to hold it together, and I'm freaking out, and Arnold walks into the room, and you're trying not to, your microphone's in front of the guy's chin, and you're trying not to shake, and you're trying not to let the viewer see the beads of sweat dripping down your forehead, and you're trying to ask questions that are somewhat unique if it's possible. Of course, he's the governor at that time, so you got to be careful with what you ask him, or they will whisk him away, and you'll never be able to be near Arnold ever again. And it's frightening, I'll be honest with you, but Arnold does a really good job of making us comfortable. There's always those moments before the tape rolls that he'll say something funny, or he'll show off his new watch or something like that, and he's a really cool guy. But the interviewing those folks is fun, but I always try to kind of get past the celebrity and just kind of remind myself that there's just really, really, really cool things that, and cool stories and experiences, and I just try to focus on that. But it never gets old, and it's a responsibility, when you talk to these guys, because they're really a treasure trove of experience and inspiration. And Arnold, we're going to be working with him in a couple weeks in Columbus. We'll be doing our webcast there, and Arnold will be very available to us. And if there's any unique questions that anybody wants to suggest that we ask him, I feel like we've asked him everything we possibly can ask him. But if you got a new angle or something new, by all means, I would love to stick it in my back pocket and take it with me to Columbus, because it's a fun thing to do. But yeah, it never gets old, that's for sure.
All right. Well, so throughout all these years of interviewing, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I do. And Mel, you'll appreciate this one. We talked about this actually the other day on the interview that I was doing for those other guys, for Dave and the guys at RX. It's actually a fun interview. But he asked me that same question, and interviewing the legends is really, really cool. But the memories of interviewing the guys like Mike Matarazzo, the guys whose voices we don't get to hear anymore, the guys like Ben Weider and Joe Weider and Serge Nubret and so many others who have passed, and to have the opportunity to have spent an hour with them and hear their stories and be able to relive their stories whenever we want to, it's really special. And I said it earlier, and I hate to be redundant, but it's a huge responsibility. And I think the biggest one of them all for me was an interview that I did back in 2007. Now, this was with a legendary, iconic champion named Reg Parker. The reason why that was so special, and I'm sure there's probably no one in this room who appreciates Reg as much as John Hansen, but I will tell you this, that was different because Reg, when he did that interview, we all knew that Reg was dying. He was presumably weeks away from that happening. And he reached out, and we were able to put it together through a mutual friend to do this interview. And Reg came on the program, and we knew that it was his opportunity, perhaps his last opportunity, to communicate with the fans and the community that has been so a part of his life for so long. And Reg gave an interview that I'll never forget, and he said some very poignant, very powerful, very emotional things. And of course, while this interview was happening, you're keenly aware of the importance of this conversation, especially for him, and certainly for me and everyone who was listening. So Reg signs off, and I remember when the interview ended, sitting there in my office, and I remember how moved I was, and it was emotional. I was crying, actually, thinking about what had just happened, and knowing full well that that was probably the last time any of us would ever hear that voice and hear those stories. And it really made me appreciate just the importance of not to overstate it, but it's important what we do. We provide a voice that will last forever. His family will forever be able to experience that, and to hear from Reg. And I'll tell you the same thing that I told Dave in that interview the other day. I would trade 1,000 interviews with Arnold, or I wouldn't trade 1,000 interviews with Arnold for opportunities like that, to be able to sit down with a guy like Reg Park and to hear his stories and know that that was forever the final time that most people ever heard that voice. So that those are the ones who are extra special to me. In the interview with Mike, man, Mike was larger than life and just as cool as anyone out there. And he was actually in a good place. He had already bounced back from some illness, and he was feeling good, and it looked like he was on the road back to recovery and feeling great. So for that was he was just loaded with energy, and I'll never forget that. And when I got the news, I think I may have even got the news from you that Mike had passed. I immediately went over and listened to that, and it's cool to be able to go back and hear those voices. And so I would say, whenever you guys are giving those interviews, remember that hopefully you'll live a lot longer than Reg did after that interview. But I will tell you that it is a chance for you to leave an indelible footprint, on the planet, that people will forever be able to hear your story, and take that seriously, because it's an opportunity, and don't waste it.
All right, thank you. Through your keen journalistic eye, your experience, what's your opinion on how our industry has evolved or changed with the addition of all the new divisions? What have you seen through the years?
So, it's hard to do what you guys do now. It's really hard. Back in the day, when guys like John were competing and getting ready for shows, they thought about one thing. They thought about, or two things, going to the gym and working out their diet. It was a real basic algorithm, right? It wasn't all that complicated. You would diet, you'd get your protein, you'd deplete, you'd manipulate your sodium, you'd carb up, you'd walk on stage, and that was it. It's a whole different ballgame right now. The amount of choices that you guys are faced with now, in terms of who you're going to work with. Are you going to work with somebody? Does somebody have a different style, philosophy that fits for your physique and your approach? Making those choices, making the choices of which contests you're going to do, because there are so many. Making the choices of which media you're going to affiliate yourself with, or which supplement brands, or how you're going to manage your social media. Are you going to release pictures of yourself? Are you not going to do that? What are the pros and what are the cons of doing that? Just managing the whole landscape of the world as it is in 2016. It's far more complicated than it ever was back in the day, back in the 80s and the 90s and the 70s, even 20 years ago. It has changed so much that I know on a day-to-day basis, you guys actually have to earmark time to manage your social media and to manage all aspects of your prep and your strategies. And you guys are constantly making changes. And I worked with this guy for the last show, so now I'm going to work with this guy for this show. And what are the political ramifications if I work with this guy instead of that guy? And it just, honestly, it is overwhelming for you guys, I would imagine. So I would say that is probably the thing that stands out for me as being the biggest change over the years. It's just the number of things that you all have to think about, and the number of decisions you guys have to make over the course of that journey. It's not as simple as it used to be. And now, of course, the good side of that is with all of those changes comes opportunity. And so those are the positives. It's not a negative thing, it's just very, very different.
Okay, so what kind of a tidbit of advice that you could give to these aspiring champions moving forward for like self-marketing or direction?
The number one piece of advice is go out and buy some blinders and some earplugs. Because there's a voice, there was a situation that led you to this journey. There was something that happened in your lives, something that you connected with, like what John just talked about. There was some experience, some conversation, some personal ordeal, something in your world brought you to this place, set you on this journey, right? And I know you all have a story. Everyone has a story. There's a reason why you decided to reinvent your approach, dedicate your lives to this, very positive, challenging journey. And there was something. Unfortunately, what happens far too often is we lose focus of that. And you allow all the poisons from the outside, all of the opinions and all of the haters and all of the other things that are in the world, whether it's in your own home or whether it's online or whether it's somewhere in your reality. There are so many things out there that make you forget about that reason why you started. And then it turns negative, and you stop having fun, and you stop staying true to this journey, right? Because all of a sudden now you're thinking about things like, this is what they're saying, and this is what he's thinking, and that's a shame. And I would say to you, and this goes for everything, by the way. This goes for your relationships, this goes for bodybuilding, fitness, figure, bikini, this goes for your professional pursuits. There is a very specific reason why you set out on this journey. And it had to have been a powerful thing, because you don't do this unless it's real. You don't make these sacrifices unless it's real. It's impossible to go through what you put yourself through just because you chose to do it. All right? It's not something you just decide to do like going to see a movie. It's real, and it's heavy, and it's a major sacrifice. And what started you on that journey is something very real. And I would just encourage you, since Tim asked me to impart some advice, take it for what it's worth. Never lose connection with what that thing is for you. Because there are so many things as you go through this journey that will pull you away and make you forget it. And that's a shame. And I don't want that to happen, and I've seen it happen a lot. There's been plenty of people that have just melted down. They have succumbed to whatever the peripheral pressures are. And it breaks my heart, because I know that there was a reason why they're doing this, and they forgot what it was. And don't forget what started you on this journey. Stay true to it. And when it's all said and done, you'll get a lot more out of this than just medals and trophies, because it's something that will stay with you forever. But that would be the one thing: just buy some blinders, earplugs, and just stay focused and stay true to what started you doing this.
Does anybody have anything for Dan? You want to be on his talk show?
What's the funniest thing that ever happened to our interviews?
The only time that I can remember, there's been a couple of funny moments that they're probably funnier to me than they would be to anybody else. There's always those moments where, because back in the day it was hostile media time, right? Everybody was competing with each other, and this magazine was competing with that magazine. And so we've had plenty of funny moments where you'd have an athlete like right in the hot seat, and you want to interview them, and then they would be pulled from your grasp right before they were you were set to interview them because they had some contractual obligation with some other media outlet, and those can turn into very comical moments. Those are funny. The times with Arnold, of course, are always funny, because Arnold is a nonstop comedian. And so when you have those moments with Arnold before he comes out, he'll always kind of add some levity to kind of make everybody comfortable, because we're all real nervous and he sees that. But I don't know that there's any, people don't usually ask me questions related to comedy, because I'm just not funny. I always say that, if you want to hang out with somebody and have a real good time, like go hang out with Mel or even Tim. But I'm just gonna go to bed at 10 o'clock. So I don't know. All that's funny. I got a it's true. I'm known for it. I got a 9-year-old son at home, and I will say this: most of my weekends are spent on the Little League field, coaching my 9-year-old son and 12 other kids, because that's what I do. And I travel a lot less these days. Which is sort of a testament to how much I love and respect Tim, because when he called me and asked me to be here, I, of course, would be anywhere for Tim. And I can't say enough for this community that Tim has built here in this area with your team. And You guys have just done such a great job growing the state of Florida and doing some really positive things that I think everybody here is benefiting from. And if you don't quite know it yet, you're going to really benefit going forward, because here in the state of Florida, and I also include Mr. Fancher and all that, there's just so many exciting things going on. You're very fortunate. It's like I tell my son on the Little League field, the state of Florida, the baseball talent is so good, it's almost ridiculous. That you're in a great place, though, to be able to do that in this state. Similarly, here in the world of the NPC and the IFBB and the bodybuilding community, the state of Florida is a special place. It's loaded with talent. It's loaded with amazing passion and great promoters and great venues and opportunities like this for people to come together. This does not happen in every state. It happens in some states, but it doesn't happen in all of them. And here in the state of Florida, you're part of something pretty great. So I'm very grateful for Tim for being at the center of a lot of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to segue right to the funny guy.
I have a question.
Oh, another question. Mr. P.
Was there ever an interview that the anticipation of building up and said this is going to be really great, and it turned out to be horrible because the guy would give you answers, one-word answers, that kind of thing? Or you had to just...
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you who it was. Yeah, there's interviews sometimes.
Was it Pete?
We actually, as a rule, and we love our promoters, we do, we love them to death. I'm not big on interviewing promoters. That's a whole other conversation. But no, we love telling everybody how great their events are. We think that we do it a different way. But no, there are interviews that surprise you for the good, that you never realize how much that guy had to say or what his story was, and happens all the time. And then there's those interviews that you're expecting all these great things from, and you're all excited. I know that you mentioned Franco Colombo and Frank Zane earlier. Now those guys didn't disappoint. Back in the day, it was fun because there was no social media and there was no YouTube channel, so we were able to really be at the center of this narrative, this communication. So we had Franco come on, and Franco had some not so nice things to say about Frank Zane, and then Frank Zane came on the next week and fired back to Franco Colombo, and this used to go on all the time, also with like the King Kamali and the Craig Titus and the Sean Ray, and they would fire back all the time. Now everybody's just gotten really nice. Nobody wants to offend anybody. You don't want to hear Dexter firing a shot at Phil anymore. You don't hear, it's become just a really friendly community, which is great on some level, except if you're in the business that I'm in and you're trying to, create some interest in these events. The guys have really started to behave almost to a fault. So I would just say that to answer your question, yeah, the guys have just gotten very, very careful with what they say, and I think that's because maybe they've been burned by it, and maybe it's just easier to go through a prep feeling like you don't have rivalries or any of that. But the sport could use some rivalries, and I welcome them. As long as they're managed respectfully and all that, it's always a positive thing. We can get guys fired because look, at the end of the day, look, physiques are physiques. But like we said at the top of this talk, the stories are what sell magazines. The stories are what bring people to shows, and we always encourage everyone to do their part in helping us build a story. So, yeah.
Hey, Dan, I had a question. It seems like when you do your interviews, you're much more polished than most of the other, and now anybody can put together a radio show now with these podcasts and stuff. Did you have any training for radio journalism?
Yeah, so I went to broadcasting school at the University of Miami, and then I went to the University of Hartford up in West Hartford, Connecticut, and I studied journalism and print. So I kind of came into this industry with a print and a broadcasting background. And what's funny is when we started doing this stuff back in the day, it was cool because I took that skill set and I would break the news. I would report stories, and it was fun. Nobody reports stories anymore because when there's a story to be reported, people go to their Twitter account and tweet it, and everybody has their own media outlet, otherwise known as their Facebook page or their Twitter account. So gone are the days where we get to put a lot of those skill sets to work of actually, dressing up as a reporter and putting the news out and getting everybody, giving everybody the scoop of what's going on this week. Those things just don't happen anymore. It's a whole lot harder. But yeah, so that's how it started for me. I got a degree in journalism. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.